Hi, and welcome to another fine edition of On the Spot. My name is Ronnie Wiley. To my left is Anna Dungan from the Fayette County Foundation. How are you, Anna?
Good. How are you?
Great to have you on. I've actually been wanting to get you on for a long time, and finally I thought, might as well, during this time of the year, get you on. Foundation, you're part of the Fayette County Foundation. But before that, let's talk about you. You've been a lifelong resident of Fayette County?
Born and raised. Mm-hmm.
Wow. What kept you to stay here?
Well, I had an opportunity to have a great job here in town. Mm-hmm. That's definitely a bonus. My family is mainly still here, and my husband Jeff was born and raised here also, and so we have family roots in our church, and we both have the opportunity to work and meet a lot of great people that have our career right here in town.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome. That's
almost
like the American dream. It absolutely is a great place to be. So we used to go to church together. What church you go to now?
I go to Glenwood United Methodist in Glenwood.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, we used to go to First Church together.
First Church?
A few years ago, not too long ago. We don't want to show our age too much.
And married there.
Yeah, great. I actually was baptized, or not baptized. I was actually married at Grace United Methodist Church that I pastor at now.
Very cool.
I've been divorced, but your marriage stuck, mine didn't.
Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're only 29, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah, I had to add up there quickly.
Yeah, 29. That's it. That's right. That's okay. That's cool. So, so you got this job. Now, was this job right out of high school? Tell me about your association with the foundation.
After I graduated from Connorsville High School, then I had the opportunity to go on to Western Kentucky, and then I finished at Purdue. Jeff and I got married, and we moved to Kansas.
Oh, wow.
I worked for a company in California, Calaveras County, and they were just starting with GPS, and I helped them set up their telephone lines doing GIS mapping, which was very exciting because where we lived in Kansas was not very populated.
Right.
And Jeff had the opportunity to learn how to spray crops and work for a large farmer. And once he had satisfied that need, then we moved back to Connorsville. I worked in Indianapolis for a while, and then I had the opportunity to go to the Hospital Foundation, and I worked there for a couple years, and then Bill Thomas came and talked to me that there was going to be an opening at the Community Foundation. So I sat down and talked to Nancy Burke and interviewed, and I remember leaving that interview saying, I didn't hit it out of the park, but God, if I am the right person for this job, then I will get it. Yeah.
What happened?
And so 15 and a half years later, I still pray that if I'm still the right person for this job, and we have seen tremendous growth.
Right.
And that has been 100% from this community. It has been from great board members, great committee members. We've had great mayors that have relied on the foundation. We've relied on them. City council, county council, commissioners. It's still surprising, though. A lot of our donations come from outside the community. Almost 12% of them come from outside of the state of Indiana annually, where people have a tie, and they've either read about us in the newspaper or definitely through Facebook or other things now. But we've taken the Community Foundation from roughly about $3 million to $11 million.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's almost the city budget.
It is.
If you think about it in terms of
So our payout then, instead of thinking about, a $10,000 scholarship, you look at a $500 payout. So what are you able to do with that money? Well, we're able to help the park pool. We're able to help make sure that the river's cleaned up. We're able to make sure that the city cemetery has the tools that they need to put up the chain link fence and a lot of those things. And we've learned not to do it all, because when you turn around and no one's following you, you're going to have to carry a heavy load on your back. So we've learned to gather around the table, get a lot of consensus, and definitely the majority still rules, and we like to see skin in the game. So partnering with other people that have passion about a project, we're willing to come alongside of them and help them, not necessarily their last resort, but kind of help them champion the project. That way we don't have to manage it later on.
Is it more nonprofit that you deal with?
Nonprofit and a lot of donors. You would be surprised how many people say, I care about the community, but I don't know where to give. And they're surprised. They might know about their church budget, but they don't know that a particular organization is struggling financially, or the reason that an organization might shut down is because they need volunteers or they need direction, those kind of things. And so we have been able to help a lot of organizations become 501c3s, or say, why don't you just say grassroots, not-for-profit, don't go through the paperwork, don't become something that is bigger than you want to handle. And so I think we're a resource to a lot of not-for-profits. They sure like when they get that check.
Sure.
When we go to the animal shelter and we say, here's money from Edgar Kearns that passed away 30 years ago, but every year the animal shelter still gets the benefit because he cared about it.
That's amazing.
Or William Henry, he set aside money in memory of his mom for St. Gabriel's. And so every year we get to give them a check in memory of his mom, even though he passed away in 1974.
Now, does his money or anybody's money that you say he passed away in 74, that's 40-something years, does that money incur interest on top
Absolutely,
of it?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you give money, and then it sits there. The difference with the community foundation is we are endowed, which means we never spend the principal. Even though a lot of times it'd be nice to say, okay, we're going to cash it out and give you back your money so that you can fix the roof, we only spend the interest. And so that's very important. So if you make, a couple years ago, you might have made 10 or 12% interest, and we only spent 4 or 5, then that interest would be compounded by put back in as a gift and grew. So a lot of the endowments that we have that grew primarily 95 to 2001 did really well.
Really, yeah.
Did really well. Then 2001, 2008 hit. And so a lot of Karen, who's at the foundation, and myself is how are we investing this money correctly, because it does make a difference. Organizations and a lot of kids are depending on it. You can't say, well, the class of 2016 was really strong, and so we want to give a lot of scholarships. 2017, not so much. You have to be as even and as fair as possible.
Right, right. I mean, and because the children or whoever received that is not responsible for the economic, you know, So, so obviously you guys have a lot of hard decisions that you have to make.
Yes, and we rely on what is overall the best for the community. And I learned a long time, if you tell the truth, it's easier to remember.
Sure, absolutely, because you don't have to think of it.
Yeah.
That's a good philosophy. That's a good philosophy.
Yeah.
So, again, you were out in Kansas working for a California company. You had no idea you were going to be put in this position.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think growing up, seeing my grandparents always making extra meals. They were in the church basement helping deliver meals.
Right.
My mom is an active member in Tri Kappa and always selling chocolate-covered Easter eggs or Tri Kappa nuts or all those things, and always giving more of yourself than you hide back for rest. And I look that I have a tremendous responsibility that our sons learn to volunteer. It's not always take.
You mentioned earlier of something about volunteers. You said that some people, maybe need some volunteers. Do you connect people with volunteer activities? Obviously, presenting a check's great, but do you help people get connected to manpower or volunteer hours with someone? We
can, yes. We have several churches that call and say, I've got a youth group that needs some volunteers, National Honor Society. And a lot of times, it's intellect that people need. They need board members that can be the treasurer or sit on the investment committee. Just because you're on a board, you need to realize that you're going to go through the leadership. You need to become the secretary and make sure you know all the policies are in place. You need to be the treasurer to see the ins and outs of the cash flow, and then to take your seat as the president.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've always tried to, when I worked at Centerstone, I was an employment advisor, and one thing I tried to explain to people, instead of sitting around waiting for the next job, maybe go serve on a board to develop skills necessary for that next step. At our church right now, we're trying to find a treasurer. It's kind of difficult, so I may be calling you up to help us out with the treasurer on that. So again, you came from Kansas, came back, and it was not the Fayette County Foundation. Then what was it called? It was
a Fayette County Foundation,
Okay.
In 1986, which we're celebrating our 30th anniversary today. Perfect timing, And we think about what Jake Price or Bob Price, Bruce Bowden, and all those people thought 2016 would look like.
Wow.
And sometimes you don't stop and think about it. So we're asking people to put pen to paper. What do you think we will look like in 2046? What will our needs be? And I think that you can weed out a lot of pessimism by then.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have said the sports complex. It's like, well, we submitted a grant to the DNR yesterday to break ground on that. And you have to put it on the calendar that 2019 we will be playing ball out there.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's like you can't just, well, somebody else is going to do it.
Right.
You have to do
You have
it.
to do it.
And you have to get the people around the table that say, let's plan for the future. A lot of people say, well, kids won't come back to the community. Have we asked them what they need to come back to
Right.
the community?
Right.
Do we have Wi-Fi? Do we have housing? If you've gone to school to, let's say, Butler, and you've gotten your degree in pharmacy, are you going to come and live in one of the current apartments? And where are you going to ride your bike?
Right.
And where are you going to get your Wi-Fi?
Right.
And where are you going to work? So I think that we have a great opportunity to talk to kids, ask them to volunteer, ask them to give back, and then what do you want the community to look like when you do graduate?
Yeah, you never. I don't think anybody really thinks that as round as that. I mean, it's kind of right here. We don't open up our. Right. The kids are our future. We have to ask them, well, what's going to keep you to come back? And unfortunately, we can list off. Me and you could sit here and list off the many things but there is a lot of positive encounters with it that people forget. It's a very caring and giving community. I mean, I've seen it at our church. I've seen people who came to our pantry and said, "Hey, we've been served by you. Now we want to help.
Absolutely.
We want to help back."
Yeah.
And so I've seen people give just of their time. That's maybe all they have, and that's okay. Do you guys have any opportunities for people to give back that may not be able to do it financially?
Absolutely. I think that time is definitely more valuable to some people than
Sure it
others.
is.
Sometimes we just think, oh, we'll just hire it done, or oh, we'll just have that done. But I would be more than happy to talk to anybody that is interested in, hey, I'd like to work with the youth, or I have a specialty with animals, or anything that they have to give that can be developed. If you can balance a checkbook, you can be on a church treasurer.
You're
Yes.
absolutely right.
Yeah, we're not asking
yeah.
you to balance the world market or
Right.
anything like that. We need for you to come to the meetings. We need for you to be present,
Right.
and that means the bank statement's going to go to your house.
Yep.
It's accountability. And I know that there was somewhat of a disconnect. You can look back in history why some people don't join and why other people have left. We hear, well, if you raise the dues, people
Right.
will leave. I think if you give people specific jobs, like
Right.
I need for you to bring the napkins to the party.
Right.
You always need ice. Then they're wanted, they're needed,
Right.
and that's what everybody wants to
Well,
feel like.
everybody wants, no matter what situation people are involved, people want to feel needed, people want to feel appreciated, people want to feel respected, and I find that's great. Now, you talked about some of the men that did this start in 1986 or was it earlier?
1986.
Oh, wow, so this
Yeah.
is exactly 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if it was before that or not. So it started in 1986, always as the Fayette County Foundation.
Always the Fayette County Foundation.
What was the reasoning? Was there any spark in the, because I came here in 87, so what was the reasoning? Let's start a foundation.
Bob Price worked at Central State Bank, and he was good friends with a gentleman at the Portland Foundation that also worked in a bank. And Portland Foundation is maybe 60 years old, and so he was talking to them that you create a community savings account. Instead of when you graduate from college, people immediately, Purdue wants your money, you know,
Right.
wherever you work, you know, you give to that charity. And it was like, why don't we keep the money local? We have industry, we have physicians, we have good skilled workers that could keep their money here instead of just thinking somebody else needs to come in and save us.
Right.
And so the Lions Club gave $5,000, and at that time the YMCA was closing, and that board gave us $5,000.
I've been here almost 30 years, and I didn't even know we had a YMCA.
The YMCA,
We did?
yes.
Where was that at?
Well, originally, I don't know exactly the street, but I remember my brother going, and it was upstairs of another building. Like you went up, and there was like pool tables and stuff.
Wow,
and
I
then,
had no idea.
Yeah, Tim Rogers was very instrumental in that and did a great job running
Wow.
that. And then they bought the YMCA building and started running that. I think everybody learned to swim in that pool.
Yeah.
They had other programs that we went to, so they had that money. And so in 1986, they had $20,000.
Wow.
87, 88, 89, 90, 91, they had about $20,000. At that time, Lilly Endowment came along and said, we know that there's 4 or 5 community foundations in the state, and it's a really good philosophy. We are going to help every community that wants to start a community foundation. 87 of them sprung up in the next
Wow,
2
I bet.
years.
Yeah, sure
So
they
there
are.
is a community foundation represented in all 92 counties, but some places they're a cluster. Like around Evansville, there's a cluster, and then on the west side and on the north side of the
Right.
state. Here, there's one in Rush County, Liberty, Wayne County, Delaware, and then we're divided into regions, and we work together really well. So if Elisa would call me and say, hey, I'm working with a donor that really cares about the Marygrave Bird Sanctuary, she would be a good fit to come to the community foundation.
Sure.
So if somebody comes to me and says, I love the state parks and I want to do something, then I would call Dungan in Liberty and say, hey, I've got a donor here that would probably be a better fit for you. We do have endowments that support things outside of our community, but for the most part, it's right
Everything's
here.
right
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So $20,000 is like $20,000 for 5 years.
Yeah.
And when did it start picking up steam?
2001, Lilly Endowment started really waving the
That's
money
when they
out.
did that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
they said, you raise $1, we'll give you $2. You
Okay.
raise $1, we'll
Okay.
give you $1.
That's what I thought. So 2001, it started really picking up, and that's about the time you came in, correct?
I started in 2001, so almost like 10 years later. Nancy Burke was hired as executive director in 1992 or 3. She had been on the board, so she knew the groundwork. And Bill Wilson came on, Bruce Bowden, Brad Hassler, Hilton Henry, just some very community-minded people. And I just can't say enough about Bruce Bowden. I still think about him probably daily and the philosophies that he taught me. Bill Wilson still is very instrumental. I could call him almost every day. Bob Price taught me just you can't keep everybody happy.
Right.
As long as you're doing the right thing. And in this job, you do want to keep everybody happy, but
Right.
it is impossible.
Sure, and like we talked about earlier, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of tough decisions to make. You know, and
How do you give food to a pantry?
right,
How do you give new soccer goals?
right.
It's not apples to apples. And
Right.
actually, there's 7,000 different kinds of apples, so that's not a good comparison either.
Yeah. So I mean, you're absolutely. I mean, that is tough. I mean, who makes that decision ultimately?
Good thing.
The
There's a
board?
committee.
Yeah.
There's a committee. And they go, they read that application, they go and meet with somebody and say, hey, you're right on, you just need the gap. It's what we call it.
Right.
You have so much of it, we're just going to fill that gap. Or, you know, this is really just an incubator state. We're going to help you develop it a little bit further, and then you'll be ready to get some funding. And a lot of times we can match that mattress with the sheets and put them together. Sometimes it's not financial.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You obviously present the check, but there's so much more to it. Like you said, you talked about getting volunteers. When somebody's in the incubator stage, what are some of the things that you do to help them?
Timeline, budget, and get a good support staff around. Nobody wants to be on a committee where somebody's drawing you down all the
Sure.
time. So you need to get those cheerleaders around you. You
Right.
need to make sure that you've got a finisher, a doer, your
Right.
cheerleader,
Yeah.
all of those people together.
Yeah.
And talk to them. I remember Kathy Harvey came to us, and they were starting to plan the 100th celebration of the marching band, and they were doing a great job. And it was a year in advance, but it was like, well, we might need some hotels, we might need a banner. It's like, well, let's sit down and talk about, because not everybody does something the same every
Right,
year.
sure.
She did that one event. She won't be here for the 200th.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So to help her go through all those steps,
Yeah.
and they did an amazing job, and then we were able to give them a check to fill that gap.
Yeah, that's you know, it's got to be that's got to be satisfying to you, even though you may not see the end result, to know that you've helped somebody link something or connect something. What are some of the causes that you guys help out, or some of the organizations that you've helped out in the past?
Oh, well, that is one thing that a lot of people don't know about the Community Foundation. We don't have big plaques anyplace because it's not me.
Right.
And we've had only a handful of board presidents, and they're only as strong as
As the
the
board
people
said,
around
yeah,
there. So
sure.
we can talk about the water slide, the Liberty the pavilion, the John Roberts building, the Kitty Land, baseball, the soccer complex. Almost every church we have an endowment for, the bird sanctuary. A lot of programs we give to the youth. We recently gave $20,000 to Adam Kelly's phenomenal project out of the high school to get new weight equipment out there. And you would think $20,000. Now, why would we build that for them, or why would we give that? The things that they were using were built by people that worked at Ford.
Oh, right. Yeah.
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 And yes, that was a commitment of time.
Right.
But we need to invest in our youth.
Sure.
You know, you put $20,000 into kids that are going in there every day, and every day they're seeing a sign that says the Fayette County Foundation believes in us. Sometimes that's all a kid needs.
Sure.
We believe in you, and that's what we try to do with all the projects that we do, from the river cleanup every year to the new nickel plate trail. We believe in the community.
I love that nickel tape. I love
Isn't it fun?
I mean, it is. It's one of the. We've heard about that for years. You know, obviously we heard about it for years.
I think 86.
Yeah. Was it that long?
I don't know. It was a cocktail napkin at the Holiday Inn or
was
something.
that what it was?
I don't know.
I love walking that trail. You know, get out there and it's like, wow, we have a beautiful place right here in Connersville. How long? I mean, you said it was 30 years, but really, how long did it take to build all? I mean, I remember driving by. It was there. It just popped out. How long did it take to build all that?
We started working on the survey April this time last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
it's kind of popped up. Like I said, it did pop up.
Yeah.
I drove, you know, I hate to say this, policemen, please don't, but I always run that stop sign now that they got right, because I'm looking down the thing,
Yeah.
and I realized, oh, I just ran a stop sign. Because
But by the other day, 17 cars there.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And I don't know what. I want to put a sign at the Clio Fountain and mark if you could park at Marsh and
Yeah.
walk all the way and all the way back. You know, not all of it's under canopy like it is
Right.
at the nickel plate, but there are good pathways here in the community.
We do have a lot.
And when people park and walk, they're more likely to buy local,
Sure they are.
spend local, and you kind of police your own neighborhood that way.
And see, you know, I had no idea that you guys were a part of the nickel plate. I mean, that's amazing. You know, before talking to you, you know, I've heard of the foundation, of course, but the enormity, $11 million, that's amazing. Taking it from that, and of course, yes, we have the Lily, but you have a lot of local donors that people help out, and I'm sure some of them wish to remain anonymous.
Yes, they always have that opportunity. They can stay anonymous to us. They can stay anonymous to the board. They can stay anonymous for 10 years. There's a lot of different flexibility.
Oh, wow. Wow. I remember they had that North Platte flooding, gosh, this was maybe 20-something years ago, in North Dakota. I believe it was up there in Nebraska, somewhere South Dakota. And I remember that they had, the Angel donated, the lady that kept calling her the Angel. And I found out later on it was Ray Kroc's wife from McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
And she didn't want to be known, but somebody leaked it. And, you know, and I love stories like that. I'm sure you get to experience that firsthand.
Yes, absolutely. The two things that I would say about large national organizations or even international, do your research. Make sure that what you're giving is going. So if you're giving to the Red Cross, make sure you're specifically saying that you want it to go for hurricane relief or animals affected by a flood or something like that, because a large percentage of your dollar, I think Red Cross is above 25% now, so they're taking that chunk out for their administrative costs. So the Fayette County Foundation, we take 2%. So every dollar you give, we take 2 pennies.
That's amazing.
So we try to keep it local, and there are a lot of great organizations here in town that don't take anything. Right. We take 2%. We have a staff. We want our brochures to look professional. Right. We have a building to run. But some of the large organizations, national organizations, take a huge chunk out of your donation. The other thing is we can help people if they're trying to research. You know, is March of Dimes a good organization? Is cystic fibrosis, which is the best to help? We will help them do the research on where's the best place to give their donation.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it, because that's one of most of my budget goes towards St. Jude, UNICEF, you know, business like that. And yeah, and I want to make sure you're right, because I want to 2 cents that. So you really got to manage your budget. Yeah, you're right. A lean and mean budget when you have that.
Yeah.
So again, here you are back in '86, a little kid. Foundation starts up. You move away for a while, come back to Connersville, and you said what, the Lily was 91 when it first came in. That's what it blew
91.
up. So you 10 years later you came into that. I don't want to ask what is the biggest check you've given the people, but I'm curious. And what was it for?
I would say the most noticeable was when we raised money for the water slide. We gave $50,000 for the water slide, but actually the community gave $100,000.
Right.
Because all of our donations went to help the water slide become a reality. And I think it's 12 years old now. Time goes fast.
Gosh, you know, I think you're right. 2003, 2004, something. Yeah. It's amazing. Oh my gosh, I remember that, and I remember getting on it for the first time, and you know, we're blessed.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, we are. You know,
it's half full, half empty.
That's right. That's right. And let's fill it up. One of the things that amazed me about this community, and I do love Connorsville, and I've been here since 1987, and I've seen it go through the boom, and I've seen it where it is now. Is that we do got to stop and remember the positives. We have to stop and remember the positives, and I'm sure you probably get some negatives as well.
Absolutely.
How does the foundation handle that?
Well, we definitely listen with kind ears, and I've shed many tears over upset donors or scholarship recipients. I often go to the board and say, which is better? Do you want me to be tough or soft? And it's like, the happy medium kind of in between. I do work at the most positive place, and I try to make sure that people come and go from the Community Foundation office very happy, very satisfied. The board, we talk about, should we put all this stuff in the newspaper? It's like, it's all available. It's all what people want to hear. And if they want to see the positive, if they want to hear the good things that are going on, if you read about world context, we are one of 30,000 other communities in the Rust Belt. And what we choose to make out of our situation will define our future.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and we get to choose. We live in America.
Yeah, that's very simple, and you're absolutely right about that. And one of the things that amazed me when I was walking up Nickel Platte, I kept thinking, I'm in Connorsville, and this is a beautiful place. I don't, again, Mary Gray is here in Fayette County, and that's a beautiful place too. But I can walk from my apartment, to this place and walk it back. It's like 3 miles if I do it all. But I mean, what a great place, and the foundation helps that. How can someone get involved with your foundation? By either volunteering for anything that you may need or monetarily, how can they donate?
Well, I would go back to the Nickel Plate Trail. We would not have been able to do that without Jessica and Daryl and the tremendous, I don't know if they're interns or summer help, but the Nickel Plate had not been opened for a while, and so there were pterodactyl-sized mosquitoes that became alive there. So,
we have to deal with those,
the foundation does not have their name on it because I never once took a chainsaw up there. John Clark from Bentonville and a lot of other people. So I need to say kudos to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
How can they be involved? They can check out our Facebook page, Fayette County Foundation. They can go to our website, and it has tabs about donate, get involved, all those different things. And that's FayetteFoundation.com. Or just give me a call, 827-9966.
827-9966, and get involved in any way, shape, or form. I'm amazed. I didn't realize how big this foundation was.
Close to $2 million we've given back in the community.
That's
and at
amazing.
some point, we know that the city and the county will rely almost exclusively on us to support youth projects like 4-H and other contents like that.
So, the sports complex will happen in 2019.
Yeah, I've already got the gal.
I'm looking forward to that.
Mr. Ellis, he brought his daughter to the city council meeting when it was a very heated discussion, and I was so proud of that little girl for being there. I said, you will throw the first pitch out 2019.
That's going to be awesome, and that's going to be over there.
FEMA said get out of that land down there.
Oh yeah, we've been probably need to get out there
So we've submitted the grant. We have the construction plans. We know some of the costs to move the dirt, where the topsoil. The soccer complex is going to get a facelift too, because we want to make sure that it's handicap accessible for all viewing sites.
Absolutely. I'm wonderful. Phone number one more time.
827-9966.
Call her up. Go to Fayette County Foundation on Facebook, and your email address one more time.
My email address is Anna Dungan, Dungan, at FayetteFoundation.com.
Get a hold of her.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed this so much. I'm amazed. I've learned so much from this. Absolutely.
You did a good job.
Thank you. You did a great job, too.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. Great job. Come back next month, and we'll have another guest on the spot.